Go.
And here we go. Greetings and welcome to episode number 19 of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about everything past, present, and future of one of gaming's most storied franchises. Today, we're going to discuss that brute in the room. Does Halo need to be great? And what is great anyways? Before we get into our topics today, I'm going to introduce our teams. Let me go ahead and introduce our Spartan team, starting with Spartan Mike, a.k.a. Mr. Kage Maru. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, friends. I'm good. How's everyone doing?
Good. What have you been up to lately?
Work. But other than that, playing some Resident Evil 8, amazing. Working on a video for a few FPS boost titles, and I hope to get done tonight, unless this is like a 3-hour marathon. And then, so that's about it.
All right. Well, sounds good. Looking forward to seeing some of the things you're coming out with here soon, Mike. Next up, we have Spartan Jesse, a.k.a. Mr. Don Cabeza. And behind Mr. Jesse, I see a shelf. Did Nick give you... Did Nick send you anything to put on the shelf so that you could, hint at some rumors today? What's going on?
I wish. I mean, that's either just me being a nerd or over there is my wife being a nerd. Sadly,
I think looking at it, we might expect something Halo related soon.
Possibly.
Within a month, there might be some Halo stuff.
Nice. All right. So what have you been doing? What have you been working on with the site?
How long do we have?
So are you being abducted?
My monitor on it. It's not dark.
Abducted.
So this is the YouTube studio page because I was trying to remember what I've done. So in the past week, Dead Cells review, Dragon Quest Builders 2 review, Forza Horizon 4 review, and Slay the Spire review. So lots of stuff up there if you're interested.
Nice.
And there, now I'll stop blinding you.
All right. Well, next up we have Spartan Ursel, a.k.a. Mr. Soul Blazer. How's it going, Ursel?
I'm going pretty well. I was initially planning my introduction by saying something like I haven't trimmed my beard, but I did trim my beard. So there goes that one. Today's Eid. Where I'm at, which is great, which is awesome. Definitely the weirdest Ramadan for those of you who follow it and know what it is I've ever had. I got COVID. I was knocked out for like 3 weeks, barely fasted. It was it was crazy, but things are good now.
So you had the COVID fast. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Better, man.
Yeah.
No. COVID sucks. I want this.
I can imagine.
No, straight up.
All right, next up we got Spartan Daniel, a.k.a. Mr. Nadian. How's it going, Daniel?
Pretty good, guys. Just been doing a lot of moderating for the site lately. Hoping to jump into some more, yeah.
The never-ending job.
And it's thankless. But hoping to jump into some more reviews and things like that. I've got a nice machine learning one kind of planned for the next little bit. Finished Last of Us 2 finally, so that was
nice.
That was something.
Oh, nice! You hadn't finished it before?
I still gotta finish it. No spoilers.
Yeah, I won't. No, I didn't. I with the pandemic last year and how miserable of an experience a lot of people said it was, I was like, I'm gonna wait.
That's smart.
I'm very conflicted. Like, had it ended about midway through, I would have said it was one of the best games I've ever played. But then it went on for another 11 hours, and I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to spoil it for Mike. But yeah, it could have been better, but it was still an experience worth playing.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the machine learning stuff's really interesting, and I know this isn't really the machine learning show, but for anybody that is interested in the technology, I actually find that far more interesting than just like the teraflops and the stuff, the technical stuff people talk about. I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things that developers are going to be able to do with this gen. So yeah, definitely that's going to be something worth keeping a lookout for. All right, next up we have Spartan Austin, a.k.a. Mr. Proven. How's it going, Austin?
Doing great. Excited to be on the show. Excited for E3 in a couple weeks. A little under a month now. Hopefully after that we'll have actually, things to look at, and hopefully eventually we could actually get our hands on the game.
E3, it's almost here.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It felt like it would, like this year has gone by so fast for me. Like I can't even believe it's May already.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This year, like I swear to God, the last 10 years.
But you know what? I gotta
The
say,
last
since
4.
you've been born, Austin.
I gotta say,
The first
though,
10 years of my life have been crazy.
with how excited I am for E3, I'm happy this year is moving fast. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
100%.
typically
100%.
I'm like, oh man, that's rough. But right now, just speed it up. Let's get it there. Let's go.
Mhm.
Let's get to playing some Halo Infinite.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just nice to be able to focus on games for the first time in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's like, trying to find time for that. All right, and finally, I'm your host today, Spartan One Bad Mother. And for me, I've been working on some things with the site. I guess I can't talk too much about it, but we're going to be doing, we're going to be having another podcast-ish type thing going on, and for everybody that's using Game Pass, I think you want to keep your eyes peeled. And if you're on Xbox and you're not using Game Pass, then that's probably another intervention we need to have later. But staying really busy with that. Between that, juggling kids work and
That sounds
cat.
illegal. Why are you juggling?
Yeah, I'm not very good at juggling, so
That's even worse.
I should go check on the kids. So that's it. That's been life lately. But all right, let's go ahead and get into our topic of the day. And really, this week, a lot of times we have a topic list. I really wanted to spend some time really focusing on this one. I got in a couple of my friends' podcasts over the last week or so, and Halo came up at both times, and it seemed like that drove a good hour's worth of conversation, just on this one thing. And the reason this all came about, for those of you who aren't aware, recently an X343 developer puts together things to encourage developers. He's Chinese, and so he put together some videos that were done in Mandarin. Somebody found it and interpreted it, and it was put on XboxEra. And I mean, it must be an aberration or, something that usually doesn't happen, but something was taken way out of context on XboxEra.
No, I don't believe you.
That would never happen.
So I don't know if you could believe
The
that.
internet is nothing but the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
So yeah, he had to deal with that. But one of the things he did say through that interview, and I don't think he necessarily, took this back, but he said, Halo is going to be he may have said really good or great game, but it's not going to be an epic masterpiece. And that kind of set a lot of people off. And if anybody here is on Twitter, you've probably seen a lot of people saying, well, what are you doing for 5-6 years? Or, it has to be an epic masterpiece. And I think this really brings up a few questions to kind of talk about. Obviously, first off being, does Halo need to be great for Xbox, for Halo? And I guess we can start there and then kind of move on to some of the other things this means. Mike, let's go ahead and just start with you this week. Like, what was your thoughts on that, him saying that? Like, did anything go through your mind immediately on that? And, do you think that Halo needs to be great?
Yeah, actually, I mean, as usual, a lot went on my mind. But, it's like, okay, so like everything else in life and like everything else in the conversation, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of perspective. I mean, as weird as this may be, with him working on Halo, he may not be the biggest Halo fan, if that makes sense. There are people that can work on the game. Yeah, well, a job's a job, but you can have passion for the art of Halo, but not for the gameplay or the lore or the story. Plus, the way that I looked at it,
there are varying degrees.
Yeah, there's a lot of degrees, and plus there's a lot of perspectives of Okay, I hate to interrupt, but someone just said there's no sound. But I literally listened to like the first. Okay, never mind. They said, "Oops, never mind." Ravs, I swear to God,
that's a heart moment right there.
I think live chat would have been a lot louder if there was no sound for the first.
That's what I thought.
Like,
I know, but
Justin would have made sure.
It just caught my.
How often this stuff breaks in the middle of it, though? Then I can believe it.
So, anyways, where was I at? Oh yeah,
Nuance.
Yeah. So the way that I look at it, it needs to be an awesome Halo game, first and foremost, and then and like you can argue whether or not an awesome Halo game can be considered a masterpiece in 2021, and that's fair, but it's like. Considering the last couple of games that were divisive because of either the campaign or the multiplayer or the developer, this is where 343 just needs to prove that they can make an awesome Halo game, like all around an awesome Halo game.
The full package.
Yeah. And so, it's like, does it have to be a masterpiece? No. But can it still be a masterpiece for some people? Yes. Like if I'm hoping that this is my favorite Halo since Halo CE or Halo 3. Like I legit, and a lot of the stuff coming out leads me to believe there's a possibility of that happening. And I'm excited as living hell. And as a huge Halo fan, they've been saying all the right things. And you consider the huge success of Halo on the PC, on the 360, on the OG Xbox, being an awesome Halo game, that's more than enough to ensure success.
Oh, 100%.
And so, is it going to be a masterpiece? I don't know. Like, does it have to be a masterpiece? Yeah, exactly. Does it have to be a masterpiece? No. I think it has to be an awesome Halo game that brings it more in the limelight, because there's no denying that within the last however many years, Halo has lost some of its mind share, I guess.
Luster.
Yeah, luster, mind share. And that's not entirely on 343. Like I put a lot of that on past Microsoft, where they pseudo wanted to make it the annual franchise. Mm-hmm. And but then, they corrected course. Like they're making the right moves. They delayed the game an entire year. They're giving the studio time. They're listening to feedback. They're trying to walk that fine line of, making new players happy, but also legacy players or old school or whatever you want to call us.
I think they have a really smart approach with, like, a lot of us care about the campaign and care about the multiplayer, but the main thing that is really pushing gaming right now is free to play, and making the multiplayer free to play just completely changes how they can approach everything, because Game Pass is covering the campaign and all that other stuff, but the free-to-play multiplayer is going to be the actual success metric for it. Yeah. And I think the way they built it up with the Master Chief Collection was really smart. And if they do it that way again, it's going to feel fair, which is the main thing. Like Fortnite feels fair. You buy one season pass, you will earn enough to get the next one.
Yep, you play enough and you get the next one,
And they're going that direction. I think everything seems good, and we'll know more in a month.
Yeah, exactly. And you add on Forge, that feeds into multiplayer. You have hopefully an awesome campaign. I'm mostly a campaign guy, co-op guy. So to me, but everything they've been showing off with the campaign, especially how the 24-hour cycle can affect different routes and different enemies. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece. No. Can it still be for some people? Yes. That's kind of the way that I look at it.
Nick harassing us in the chat.
No.
Nick on the chat saying very incorrectly
Yeah.
that Fortnite is better than Halo.
Any game that has
Yeah.
the aliens doing any kind of scissor dance or flossing or whatever
All
the
right.
hell they call it, no,
You're
that's
not
an
even a gamer.
automatic downgrade.
Look,
Alright.
if it's playing Halo and I can't immediately forge up an entire building around me in multiplayer, I'm going to be
A 5-star hotel?
Do not give them ideas. Do not give them ideas.
Since he's interjected himself into the chat, I think what everybody needs to do is leave 343 alone and let them make the best game they're gonna make. Everybody just needs to shut up.
every once in a while he has an okay opinion.
Once in a while. We'll keep it around for the leagues. So Mike, you mentioned something interesting though, because you said you're more of a campaign guy, and to be totally candid about it, I feel like most critics, that's what they're focused on as well. I mean, nobody said after the July show, oh, but what about multiplayer, before we're going to kind of write it off or say it's in trouble or, everything else. Everybody's really focused on that campaign and what that looked like. So let's stay focused on that for a minute. How great does the campaign need to be? And what does that even mean, I guess? So, because a lot of times people say that, and it's like I don't even know that they have they're pointed to any specific, does that mean you're expecting it to become God of War storytelling? Is it all based on the gameplay? So I know you were trying to jump in there a little bit, and you're a guy that plays campaign co-op a lot. So what are some of your thoughts on that?
I'm with Mike a fair bit. Where basically Halo Infinite doesn't need to be a masterpiece on Metacritic. It doesn't need a 90+ score. It doesn't need to be universally acclaimed by every critic in the industry. You know what I mean? But I do think, especially 6 years away from the last Halo, when every other Halo game has been 3 years. So this is technically, I know COVID and whatnot, but it's technically double the development time of any Halo since what? CE, I think? Right? Mm-hmm. You have a game coming in that kind of climate. It can't just be good. In terms of Halo, I should say. It can't just be a good Halo. It needs to be a great Halo. I know the difference between good and great is semantics and whatnot. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece.
I think great is both, everything's good.
Yes.
If just everything's good, that's a great Halo. Because the last two were half.
Yeah.
It can't launch with people going, listen, the multiplayer is great, but what was that campaign? Or it can't launch with, that campaign was solid, but where's Big Team Battle? Or why are the maps all look like Forge maps? You know what I mean? It can't have those issues anymore. It needs to be a complete package, as I mentioned earlier, and more importantly, it needs to be the culmination of everything 343's done, in my opinion. Good or bad, that's what this game needs to be. Because it's not Bungie. This is still 343's Halo, right? So I want this to be the best work they've done. And according to all the interviews and everything, that's what they're saying. So, I mean, let's see how it goes.
What about you, Daniel? Do you think there's a chance here that the campaign can wow you? Do you think it needs to? Does it need to wow you? I guess that's probably a good way to put it. Or is it going to be just good enough just to be solid?
It's such a complicated question. I as somebody who loved Halo 4's campaign, I think that they already know kind of what they need to do to make a good campaign again. I think
narrative wise. Right?
Yeah, narrative wise. With 5, I mean, there's a ton of reasons that was between marketing and 343 not really communicating well, between a bunch of cuts being made,
and definitely a hard deadline for sure.
Yeah. So I think at the very least, since Staten's been brought back in, I think that the campaign front I have had absolutely no worries about. Pretty much anything, in my opinion, anything he touches is gold. So it's so weird because we say great, and when like we were having this conversation earlier in chat, when we talk about great, 8 is still great. 8 is still fantastic. But certain corners of the internet will say, well, it's a travesty, despite the fact that whatever game I'm about to reference is also in that same, benchmark. So I don't necessarily think that it has to be, quote unquote, the greatest game of all time to be successful. I only hope that they manage to make a great campaign and a great multiplayer suite simultaneously. That to me, that's the only metric that I'm considering about from what makes it a great game. That's it.
I'm gonna
in chat with
what-
a Halo bend the knee to Fortnite adding Chief. There, shut up, Nick.
And
Super chat.
actually let me grab some of the other super chats as well. Did anybody read Exhibits?
Zabbits? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, I have my glasses.
With a $6 super chat, $1 for each host on the show to get Game Pass. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All of you assume we don't already have it.
You know that goes a
Yeah.
lot further in gaming than it used to be. So
yeah,
we
especially
we
thanks to
really
Game
appreciate
Pass.
it.
But unlike some podcasts, we all have Game Pass. I think so.
You know, when you factor the rate of inflation and how much it used to cost me to try to rent one game from Best Buy back in the day for a weekend, I bet you that it
Blockbuster.
would. Yeah, or I mean that's what I meant. Yeah, Blockbuster. Sorry, I forgot. I forgot what it was called. I'm forgetting shit. I'm getting old and forgetting shit already. You that probably equates to about more than $10 today's money. And you would go there for Double Dragon 2 and you would end up with Fester's Quest. So I mean it was not worth the $10.
Expensive. They were like $70, which would be like 90 today. It really sucked. People are very lucky today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks for that, Zabit. We're gonna Shep's.
Blast the Base also had a super chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what? $1 equals 1 Metacritic point for Halo.
And
Can somebody interpret what Blast the Base is?
Well, he gave us $7, so that means he's going to get a 7 out of 100 on Metacritic. It's the lowest score of all time. You meant 7.
so it's gonna be like Knack, basically.
Oh,
I completely lost my train of thought.
That's enough. All right, Ruben, I didn't ask you. What's your thoughts on the? Does Halo need to be great, or is there anything else?
Well, I think 343 need to deliver a very good game. Like they've had a lot of time to work on this game, so I don't think it like if we get the game, we're like, oh, it's pretty solid, but it has a lot of flaws. I think that would be disappointing. But like, I don't think it needs to hit a Metacritic score because I think we're learning more and more that Metacritic really doesn't matter at all because there are some games that like have been at like the Game Awards and have won all these awards, but they're like in the low 80s. So like
Or
I think
70s.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, Halo 4 got an 87, but everyone says that game sucks. But like, but then some other games will have an 83, but that won a bunch of game of the year
Spider-Man's
awards.
what, like an 84 or something, I think, right?
It's like an 86 or something. It's just like basically the way I see it, if it's above 75 or something like that, I assume the game's going to be good. There's not like a specific score that the game needs to hit. It just has to be a game that Halo fans like and that's popular enough so it has a lot of players. That's all it needs to be.
There is a secret about Metacritic, and as somebody with over 30 reviews on OpenCritic, the secret is that game review scores are really stupid.
Yep.
And you
I
should
hate
have to
them.
read
I
the
hate
article or watch a video and actually understand why someone liked or didn't like something, which is why we do it because we have to for being up on OpenCritic. We're not like Polygon where we can just say we think it's okay or nah, pass. But on the whole Metacritic thing is really dumb. Mario Odyssey had a 97. Is garbage, Nick. It's garbage.
We got all the hot takes today.
But yes, Metacritic's dumb.
Real quick to touch on what you said earlier, Abe. I'm hoping the reviewers aren't. I'm hoping nobody is expecting Infinite to be like God of War. I mean, and I got what you were saying with that question, but like God of War got so many accolades and got so much attention because it did evolve the series and reboot the series in a much in a positive way. I had no interest in any of the positive or previous God of War titles. I like the reboot. It's a great game.
Yeah, I was the opposite.
Well, I mean, and that's fine, and that's completely fine. I completely get that, but I think, and opinions aside, I think the reason they got so much attention and acclaim is because it rebooted a series what many considered for the better. You know, like it evolved in a way because what was it? God of War 4 Ascension or whatever it was called. Like it was kind of, the series was kind of running out of steam. And so, you know, as long as and they've openly talked about how Infinite is a soft reboot of the series. So if this soft reboot can be universally seen as a positive direction, a positive, you know, for the better, I think I'm hoping that is what, you know, would be seen as a positive, would get, I don't want to say the same accolades, because obviously the quality, the gameplay, the design, all of that matters. But, you know, I think as long as this pseudo open world hub section design works out so that it's fun, it's engaging, I think, I'm hoping most people will, you know, latch onto it.
I think you guys all make some really, really good points. So yesterday I was on, you know, my buddy Enrique Brap, his show Brap, and we actually were on there with Shinobi. I think a lot of you guys know Shinobi from, you know, the Reset Era forums. You know, before he told everybody he liked, you know, Mass Effect Andromeda. But you know,
That's a death sentence.
he's a really nice guy, by the way. You know, really.
Oh, he's
nice
awesome.
Guy. Yeah, he really is. And so we were talking about Halo, and, you know, one of the things, you know, I mentioned was, you know, Halo needed to be great for Halo fans. It didn't necessarily need to be a Game of the Year contender, because in my mind, those were different. And, you know, I guess he asked a really good question, you know, which a lot of people agreed with this. He's like, well, why can't it be both?
I was thinking the same thing.
So let's start with that. Can Halo Infinite be both? Can it be something that critics regard as a Game of the Year contender, yet it still hits all the check marks for the pure Halo fans? Who wants to take that one away first?
I'll start if I could.
Yeah. So
yes and no, but it depends on who we mean. Because if we say Halo fans and it's great for them, awesome. But fans or the general gaming public and critics are two different crowds.
Yeah. So,
you know, what I was going to say when Jesse was talking about with Metacritic is like if you look at the Metacritic for Halo 4, for example, Metacritic is really skewed because they'll let places like PlayStation Lifestyle who give certain, you know, games perfect reviews, but then they don't allow somebody like XboxEra to be on there. And if you go look at, you know, Halo 4, it's got a 9.8 from IGN. You take out the bottom three of like no-name websites, that score automatically jumps up to a 93. So it's important to remember that not all critics are the same, and I don't think you have to please critics because, as we've seen time and time again, Sea of Thieves, 70-something Metacritic, and it's what, 20 million players?
Actually, 60 something.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so even better for my case. Fortnite, the second biggest game in the world, has a 70-something Metacritic. So I personally don't care what reviewers think, and I don't think gamers are getting. I think gamers are getting to the point where they don't either. So I really don't care what critics have to say about the game so much as what do the general gaming public have to say about it. And I think you can please those two. But I think specifically because of the pushback that 343's gotten with both Halo 4 and 5 for different reasons, I think Halo 4 or Halo fans should be the primary target. But I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think you can't. I think you can make a game that can please both crowds. Basically, that's my short version.
I agree with a lot of that, but the way that I look at it, and I'm wondering if. Yeah, the way that I look at it, in the way that like make fans of them, you know, like even if they're not Halo fan, like make like one of the reasons why Halo used to be one of the biggest IPs, and it's still large, don't get me wrong, but it used to be like the biggest shooter IP on console,
one of the biggest gaming IPs, period.
Yeah, I mean, it was easily up there with the Mario, Sonic, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And make those people fans. And you know, if the gameplay is engaging, if the story is good, if the overall design it flows well and everything. Like if the game is a good game, then I want to believe that it will review well, and that shouldn't matter. And like
it doesn't really.
Like Daniel said, it doesn't, but it kind of depends though, right? Like Fortnite got its fame because it basically copied everything out of every other battle royale game,
and it was free to play.
Yep,
Game Pass changes the paradigm.
Yeah, and totally. But I mean that's a double-sided blade, though, right? Because you'll have other people or even other companies say that, well, we don't have to shoot for quality because we're free to play. So I mean that is kind of like a double-edged sword. And I'm not saying 343 is going on the wrong side of that. They're definitely shooting for quality. They're definitely shooting for the best they can. But yeah, no, like I would hope that as long as the campaign is good, as the multiplayer is solid, and everything else that kind of combines those two, like Forge and everything, it's going to review and be received really well.
So I think I heard you trying to pipe in there a little bit. Did you have something?
Yep, and my little hand thing on Skype is raised, so I'm going to lower that.
So that's what it's.
Yeah, some of us are trying to use that.
Sorry.
I think, and this might sound a little pessimistic, I think the days of Halo scoring 90s or 90 plus in Metacritic are over. Unless some drastic shift happens in the way critics critique games in the next 10 years, that's not happening again. I think I feel the same way about Gears. I don't know why necessarily, but more so, I guess I should say that what makes a good Halo game is not what critics these days, and I don't want to lump all critics all in one group, but I mean it's Metacritic, so that's kind of what it does. So I think critics these days will not rate a great Halo game as like a masterpiece game, period. Do I think if the game is solid, it'll be nominated for Game of the Year? Sure. Do I think it has even a chance in hell of winning, especially at Jeff's Awards? Never. No. In fact, I'd be very happy it was nominated. Speaking of, Ori was completely snubbed last year. Jeff,
absolutely.
Which you're not, but if you are, you shouldn't. I mean, I know you don't know. Either way, off topic. A Metacritic score doesn't really matter, in my opinion, especially for something like Infinite that's on Game Pass. You know what I mean? Take a look at what a game just released, reviewed very well, Returnal, right? Had solid reviews. I think it's sitting at like a mid-80s on Metacritic, which is pretty difficult to obtain. It did not sell well, right? I mean, it's very expensive. It's what, like 100 Canadian, literally, for a AA, AAA roguelike game with no save function. Game Pass kind of changes the paradigm where who cares if the Metacritic scores aren't that high, right? First off, the multiplayer is free to play, so people are literally anyone, and it's actually free to play now, right? So literally anyone can try that, and everyone will, assuming the download isn't like 200 gigs. Hopefully not. And please let me download them separately, please. Actually, no, I think they'll have to. Yeah, they'll have to.
Yeah, they'll do it.
Yeah, and the campaign is on Game Pass, which by the time Infinite launches, will have like 25 million subscribers. That's a lot of people. You know?
Yeah, so I think you bring up a lot of really good points, and I think I'm a little bit more in line with you. But I think there is two different things, and what a lot of people are thinking of why it's important to them, whether they're just Xbox enthusiasts. And I think actually the people that are more concerned with the Halo score are more Xbox enthusiasts than Halo enthusiasts. Yeah. If we're honest about it, and I think there was actually some leaked information on this, Sony really does value that Metacritic because to them that associates with their brand, right? So they're really going to protect that almost as much as a sales. Like,
I mean, that Days Gone interview, right? Yeah, they brought it up.
Yeah, like a game can sell, but if it's not received really well critically, they may not go with it again. And, unless they think it's going to take a really big step the next time, because they're really trying to protect that. They want to put out that image that when we release a game under this label, it's going to be this quality game. And they understand that gaming enthusiasts, for right or wrong, do like to use Metacritic, especially the Twitter wars guys, all that stuff. You see that all the time. So I do see where there is some importance to it, but I do agree with you. So like in terms of, let's just say it scores, let's just say it scored an 82. Does that mean it can't be like the greatest game for Halo fans? No. And in fact, I argued this, on Twitter.
That's always fun.
So yeah, I'm hypocritical.
Mistake.
Sometimes people are pushing your buttons, and you're like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
No,
me
but
sign out of
actually-
my XboxEra account.
sign under triple X, whatever.
Mr. X.
my account from like before one day another. So yeah, I Paris actually mentioned it. Remember on Twitter, he said something about like, hey, this it can't just be good; it needs to be great. And and I know like Colbro kind of piped in on there, and I mentioned too that in my opinion, what the critics think is going to be great and what the Halo fans is going to be great aren't exactly the same. Now, can they still? I think
Can they overlap? Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be some overlap, right? But at the same time, I think what a critic looks for, like if you're now the 8th iteration, like this is the 8th Halo, right? I think it's like the 8th campaign, Halo in 20 years. And if we all watched the trailer last year, probably multiple times, and you look at the sandbox and everything, it looks better. Like I'm really excited about it. But I'm looking at a lot of the nuances and the details. I would say from afar, if you're not like a Halo enthusiast, it probably looks like a very similar game to what you saw 20 years ago. Right, like just like as a like if you're a Mario casual person and you look at Mario Odyssey, it looks very similar to like a 3D Mario from years back. Even though the nuances in the gameplay are different, it's evolved in some ways. So I do think that is something that will work against Halo from a critical standpoint. I do think that they're doing the right thing right now. 343 is in terms of. They seem to be more concerned with the Halo base at this point in time, which makes sense. Like the base is huge. We know there's like 10 million people that got a Master Chief Collection on PC, and that's for like a collection of older games, and just the PC. That's not including Xbox and what Game Pass is going to do. So we know that the base can be huge. I think if they
This is actually the Cats podcast.
Forget lighting, guys. Forget lighting. You guys are going to need a lot of cats next show. We're going to be like the crazy cat panel.
Hey, that might hurt. That might help our numbers.
Oh man, but yeah. So to kind of summarize it, I do think that there is there's a little bit of working against each other because critics in general want to see innovation. They want to see you move the medium forward. They really value the storytelling, which is an area to be fair, that is an area that Halo can hit and probably needs to hit.
For sure.
It needs to have a better story. Like the story needs to be cohesive, and the character development, the acting needs to be good. It needs
to more properly introduce the Banished in a way that they did on the outskirts for Halo 4 with the Prometheans and everyone. They with the Banished and Atriox and Eshram and everything. They need to do a good job of setting up who these people are for those who don't correctly or haven't played like Halo Wars 2 or read the books.
Yeah, 100%. They can't assume people played Halo Wars 2 coming into this. But yeah, I see like 3 people have their hands up.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Who's next?
I think Austin's had his up for like a while.
Austin, hey. I'm sorry. I couldn't see you.
No, it's okay. I
was distracted by the cat.
I was reading the chat. But yeah, I kind of agree with what everyone was saying. The thing that like I always think of is when you hear like dumb online arguments, like you would assume that some of these games that everyone loves are like super highly rated on Metacritic. But if you just go on Metacritic and look, like most of them are in the 80 to 85 range.
Yeah.
So
which is a great score.
I'm just gonna, it's a great score. I'm just gonna assume that Halo Infinite will at least have an 80. Like I think if it's below it, then something went wrong. So yeah,
if it did have an 80, that's a major failure. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care what scale you're working on.
Yeah, so if Halo has at least an 80, then like it's fine because like Ghost of Tsushima, which literally was at the Game Awards, has an 83. Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a really good game, has like an 85. So if we're going to be comparing these games, Oh no, I'm talking about Miles.
Oh,
Morales.
Miles Morales. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. No, that's okay. But yeah, so the thing is, as long as it has like a decent score, like I just don't think Metacritic matters that much. It matters a lot less than like 10 years ago when it felt like every game was getting a 90 plus. Like Halo 3 had a 94, but like a bunch of games were getting. But I feel like reviewers nowadays, it's really hard to get 90 plus. Like last generation, there weren't that many.
Metacritic is mainly about list scores. It's not about.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with actual success
Quality.
or sales.
Yeah.
And
And then
you trust and
Especially
follow
when
the
there's
reviews.
God knows how many games that review well but still don't sell. I mean,
Prince of Persia.
on the opposite side of that coin. Yeah, I mean there are plenty of
Sands
games
of
that
Time.
review really well, but they don't sell well, and that
Sands of Time
sadly,
didn't sell.
No, Sands of Time tanked.
I had no idea. Wow.
Oh yeah, you can find articles like that's always my go-to for exactly this point.
And they made 2
I
sequels.
Yeah, but that was because Ubisoft at that point were taking risks.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
they made games that
That's a long time ago then.
That's another topic for about the industry.
Some of us, I don't know if Proven was born when Sands of Time was.
He has no clue what you're talking
I
about.
played that game on the GameCube when I was like 8 years old, I think, and I love that game a lot. So
Great game though.
Yeah.
Super. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for the remake. Hopefully it's not canceled.
I don't think I ever beat it because I was really bad at it, but I played it like a lot. So.
You could rewind time though. That was the game for
Yeah.
people who are bad at games.
Mhm.
But one more thing I was gonna add.
Oh, go ahead.
No, before I forget, I think so. It's one of those things where I think Halo can win Game of the Year awards or whatever that means, and also be loved by the fans. But I think the most important thing is that it's loved by the fans. Like, if the game gets a 90 on Metacritic because it does something non-Halo fans want, but then all the Halo fans hate it, then the game isn't really a success.
Yep.
Like, I think the game has to be something that Halo fans want.
Yeah, and how many times did you kind of hear that? Like, if you listen to a lot of podcasts, people are like, they compare it to God of War. It needs a God of War makeover. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
No.
It says,
but this
is
is a God of War makeover. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what this
that
is.
too,
It's a
honestly,
reboot. I mean, it doesn't have to be
It's
like
not
God
a sad dad. I don't want another damn sad
But
dad.
when
Please,
people say
thank
God of
you.
War remake, or it has to be a God of War type reboot, I personally don't see it as it needs to be a sad dad. It just needs to be a reboot of the series in a positive direction. Like it's if they're literally comparing it to a completely different genre and different like tone and everything, those people are stupid. They're idiots.
I mean, hell,
They're
the
not
God
Halo
of War
fans,
reboot was essentially a different genre. But
It was,
yeah.
which is why I liked it actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kinda.
Oh, it absolutely was.
I mean, yeah. The
we do
GDC
have,
is about how they switched that gameplay. Totally different subject, but they're really interesting. But go on.
You know, we actually have a sad dad game with the Xbox on the Xbox. What's it called? Damn it,
If you say
Portfolio.
Gears-
I mean, and a really sad dad game
if you say
depending on
Gears
how you
5,
played
I'm gonna slap
Gears
you.
5.
Oh, you son of a...
Oh yeah.
Depending on what
Too
choice you
soon.
made, that could be very,
Too
very
soon.
sad. Yeah, that
That's
might be a
no.
spoiler.
Great
No.
Let's keep moving.
You know what?
Can I interject really quick on one of the things
No.
that we? Okay, cool. It sounds
Okay.
good.
I have
You're
my hand
done,
up
you should
too
put your hands down.
after Daniel.
What?
What? Anyway.
I said when you're speaking, you just put the hand down so we know that.
Oh yeah, my bad. So we always talk about like Halo's not as popular, all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of funny because Halo 4 or Halo CE when it launched and through PC, I think it topped out at 8 million. Halo 2 reached 10 million, I think. Halo 3 about 12 or 13 million. So when we talk about how just Steam or just PC has 10 million MCC, and we know for a fact that it has at least 5 million. I mean, that was 5 million shortly after launch on Xbox One. Really, we're talking about a series that actually has seen growth despite having, quote unquote, lesser, welcomed games.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I mean, obviously Halo 5's a little bit different, but it was also a console. It never came to PC, and it was on the lowest user base console since the original Xbox. So I don't know, just one of those.
And I'm
weird
sure
things.
Halo 5 made the most revenue. At least there's no quotes or nothing on that, but at least that's what I think.
Because of rec packs, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think when people say that Halo isn't as large as it used to be, I think they mean the impact. Because every Halo was like an event, you know, and it had such a influence on the industry every step of the way. You know, you had Halo 1. I mean, how many games did we see copy Halo 1 for crying out loud? Then you had the matchmaking in Halo 2, all of the features in Halo 3, you know. But no, I think you make a great point on how large it is.
I think we have a really great chance of seeing Infinite possibly being the biggest Halo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Partly because it's launching. I mean, it's launching, simultaneously on PC and console, and the fact that you've got free to play for multiplayer.
Yeah. And it's a tough thing to do for such an old franchise. You know what I mean? Yeah. I remember the days when like World of Warcraft expansion launches were like everything. People used to like have like pre-written doctor's notes for Tuesdays for expansion launches. You know what I mean? And now the game is still alive, but it's going to be impossible for it to reclaim its former glory.
A decent thing for when it comes to Halo Infinite being on PC as well is the fact that it has to run on Xbox One, which is great because no one can get a decent GPU.
That's so true.
That's a great point, actually. +1 Jesse, -1 Nick.
Real quick, I just want to touch on what you said earlier, Abe, with Mario. Mm-hmm. I think Mario is, and people thinking that Mario Odyssey or whatnot it didn't evolve much from the earlier Marios. But Mario still reviews in the 90s. So that, that kind of goes along the point that you can still cater to your base, but still be honestly, as long as it's polished. Yeah, a critically loved game. Like if it's polished, again, I think the scores for Halo 4, 5, all that, the other ones were fair because they did have obvious sore spots, and as long as we've talked about it a number of times just today about how as long as Infinite is a well-rounded, polished, quality title, I don't know, I'm not yes, Jesse, I'm not worried about the reviews.
Yeah, one thing reviewers are people who can have
biases
really love, and certain franchises, they start at 100 for them, and they take points down when they're bad. Then something they don't really know about starts at a 5 or a 6, and it goes up based on how much they like or don't like it. So something like Mario definitely starts high for most of the people reviewing it. Yeah. And it has to be a piece of crap like Sunshine to go down. Odyssey is even though I didn't enjoy Odyssey,
I love Sunshine.
Really well made.
It was happy.
So trending higher than almost anything else will at a 97, which is great. Nothing scores that high anymore.
That's crazy.
But it's because people started up there that a very well made Mario game can hit that number.
And that's a fair point.
And then you also
don't get that anymore.
And you also have examples where an outlet will pick somebody who specifically does not like a genre or a game. I'm not gonna mention it on air, but I got receipts. But yeah. So there's a whole that's why the whole Metacritic argument is just so inherently flawed.
The entire review is just like, I'm reviewing an RPG. Man, I hate talking to people. You have to level up in this game. You have to wear equipment.
Yeah.
One person out of a team. So if Nick gave Streets of Rage 4 a 9 because he loved it, I don't like that genre. I can say this is a very well-made beat 'em up and give it a 7. So it's you always got to remember it's just one person's opinion, and there's 50 of them at a time on Metacritic.
And some people aren't. Yeah. I would say some people aren't great at separating their personal biases from constructive, analyses.
Well, and I think people have, to your point, critics have different standards, and it's fine. I'm not anti-Metacritic guy or whatever. I do think the scores do serve some value to, in some situations. I think with multiplayer, it doesn't matter as much. We've seen that Rainbow Six 3, Fortnite, Destiny. We've seen a lot of examples, but kind of moving beyond that, I think even moving beyond what the scores and whether they're important and just kind of listening to what the critics want with a lot of people, again, if you kind of have outgrown Halo or, you've moved on to Call of Duty or you moved on away from shooters in general, and you're just looking for that thing to bring you back, this probably is not going to be the game for you. Like if you're that person, and I have friends that are like that. It's like, yeah, Halo was, used to be my thing back on Halo 2, and and eventually I started liking the way other shooters handled or whatever. I started liking other genres, and I've outgrown it, and I came back seeing if all the hype is seeing if it would bring me back, and it looks like Halo, so it's not. And I think that's okay, and I think that's really the next thing to kind of like pivot to. And you guys mentioned Mario, and I think Mario is a great example. I think Halo is the closest thing to Mario in terms of the way in terms of the way it stands with the brand, right? Like in terms of the way that it evolves over time. Like people that like Mario don't want it to become an action adventure game or become something different, right? They don't want it to become a cinematic game. And it continues to hold that base over time. And if you think about Halo, like there's still nothing else like it on the market. Like there, in terms of the way it handles and the way it plays, the time to kill, the sandbox. I know brute force was the Halo killer, but
I'm the only person who actually liked that game.
And Killzone,
I mentioned Killzone.
We know there's been a lot of Halo kills, but really, there's still just Halo standing. There really is nothing else like it. So when people go, well, it needs to evolve and it needs to feel more like this or that, it's like, well, when it evolves, it ends up becoming more like everything else. Yeah. And so, yes, like just like Mario, and this is where my comparison, I know you guys all made faces when I said that. This is where my comparison is. Like Mario had the hat thing, right? Like in Mario Odyssey. Mm-hmm. Halo has a grapple hook, which is not like super reinventive by itself. But within that sandbox, that could really change the dynamic of the sandbox. Yeah. And I think sometimes we underestimate that, like by having a much wider environment, having smarter enemies, having using the environment designs being smart with that, you can make tweaks that really freshen up the gameplay and still keep the core. And that's what, reading on all these updates. And what's interesting is, I don't know if you guys have done this recently. I went back and watched last year's July demo a few times after all these updates. And it really, your guys' cat.
Not like you can control cats.
Tell your cat.
I'm sorry about that. Usually she's not that loud.
It's like, God, now I'm so super distracted.
You're talking about Mario Odyssey and the hats?
No, he was talking about watching the July showcase again, bro.
Okay, I was still back there. My bad.
I'm old, man. Like I'm getting older. I forget. I get distracted and forget things.
We'll keep you in line.
I'll mute my mic next time I do that.
No, that's all good. But yeah, so what my thought on it is that looking at the video again with more context, the context being all the updates and what they're talking about with the sound design, with the like all these focuses on the sandbox, the fact that you can go anywhere or almost anywhere in those environments, and then we got those maps like a few weeks ago where they showed two different angles from.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah,
which I didn't realize. We did the show, and that never clicked with me.
Yeah, it was the hero post that showed that to me.
Yeah, and you kind of start looking at it, it's like, wow, there's a lot to play with in here. And for somebody that's a Halo fan, that to me, that all of a sudden I watched that video again, and I watched kind of like I was like paying attention. It's like, okay, yeah. For some reason, when I was watching it live, I was looking at the graphics and the gameplay like that, and I wasn't really looking around too much. But when you rewatch it and you kind of see where he starts, where he looks on the map, and then he looks all the way up, and then goes up goes up a lot of vertically went up a long ways. You kind of can see like what the possibilities are, and so I guess I'm really bullish on it. But I also get why people who, like I said, if they've outgrown it and they look at that, they're going to be like, that still looks like Halo. And, if I'm going to grade it, that's how I'm going to grade it. And it's maybe not for me. So I can see both sides of that coin. But I guess, go ahead.
No, do you guys think that they would do good? Like it would benefit like another demo or another trailer similar to like a Halo Infinite 101, similar to like what like Rockstar does for their games, like what they did with Red Dead 2, because like I think if there was some narration, light narration with a demo, because there are a lot of things like in the early demo, in July's demo, there's that spaceship there that has an open door. Like, can you imagine just going in there and exploring the spaceship with the grappling hook? There's
back to the type of narration you get from being on stage, where you can have someone talk.
I don't mean like gamer narration. God, no.
Like the
but I'm
MGS5
talking about
narration,
like
highlighting
things that aren't immediately apparent just from watching a demo.
If you look to your left.
Yeah. I mean,
just
honestly,
like Rockstar. I mean, when like you said in RDR2, when you watch that first one and they're pinpointing things out in the periphery so that it draws your eyes, so that you can say, "Holy shit, this is actually they took the time to build that, and you're going to be able to interact with that. You're going to be able to go there, etc., etc." Yeah. I got you.
And you can tell that they try to visualize some of that by showing the map, stuff like that. Like they try to allude to some of that, but if this Halo really is as ambitious as reports, rumors, yada yada,
Staten claims, Staten.
I mean,
well,
I always call him Staten.
If he's already cutting together the presentation this far out, you would hope it would be something more polished than last year's, because last year's was looking back, very clearly them adjusting to work from home. Everything. Build that was
it wasn't ready to show. I mean, in simplest terms,
it wasn't.
And they didn't have the time to give it the glow up that the final product is gonna.
So I think that would go a long way to highlighting why this is their best Halo.
One thing I wanted to mention. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's really quick. It's just onto the point where people want like a God of War style reboot, right? How many millions of people were playing God of War 2 years, a year, 3 years before this latest God of War came out? None. There were not millions of people playing it. Right? But
it sold well.
Honestly, Halo Infinite's releasing, and we still have millions, if not tens of, but several million people still playing Halo. It's not a dead IP. It's not even a rested IP. Halo 5 still did pretty flipping well. In fact, I would argue Halo 5 did the best in terms of how many people are playing this game 5 years later. Admittedly, no Halo game has had 5 years to itself, but still, you know what I mean, right? So the need to do like a full reboot isn't as prevalent as it was for a game like God of War. Also, the God of War, the old format, would not fit with Sony's...
nobody
or even Gears of War, which is the other one I always hear compared to. I think you can make more of a case for Gears because the base 100%. Is a little bit more of a niche today, right? But Halo again, it there's still nothing else like it, and so we've talked about the critics, what we like, kind of what we think there. So let's ask everybody.
One timestamp. I said about an hour on just one timestamp.
That's all good. I figured we would do this today. That's why I didn't have a lot of topics. But I do want to ask you guys, so like going around here, what would make the game great for you? Like, what would be a masterpiece Halo for each of you? And I want to just kind of, you give your opinion. Don't think about anybody else. Don't worry about the critics or what the mainstream or the other Halo fan says. What are you looking for to go? Yeah, this killed it. This was the best Halo for me. So who wants to be the first one to go? Who's ready?
I am.
All right, go, Jesse. I think you said.
Yeah. All the pillars being what they are, with a good campaign that's not too long, not too short, very replayable. A really good, well-balanced multiplayer, very good creation tools in the Forge. But the thing I would want that will never happen is some sort of endgame, repeatable, cooperative mode. A la
Spartan,
a light looter game. Very light on the loot, just something that is designed for me to play for years. Go in, and I have these extra things besides just replaying a campaign. That would be because I love playing a Halo game, but doing the same campaign sections over and over again doesn't always appeal as much as if I had something that could be a little randomized, or well, even with the way what they've shown of the campaign now, has some of that in it with the go after this knight or go help these soldiers in this area that you see a flare. So
save these cat in these trees, please.
So you want it to be a roguelike without any save system, right?
and I wanted to run at 1080p and be very fast.
Oh, so meta. So meta.
And since I'm talking, I'll read out a Blast the Base with another $5. If they put the Halo 2 Anniversary Battle Rifle in there, then it's automatically the best Halo. Well, they've already stated, if you paid any attention and actually cared, they're modeling it after the Halo 2 Battle Rifle. Yeah.
Dang.
Hardcore.
Cold-blooded.
Oh man! All right, Daniel. I think you were next up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I think just having a great campaign that is replayable in the sense that, kind of like the old Halos, where you can approach a situation differently. Obviously, you still have the same weapons or whatever, but you did have a little bit of a choice on how you want to approach. So having a great campaign, having a great story, that was impactful. 3 and 4's story to me both were immensely impactful.
Yeah.
And then having a multiplayer that's as fun as Halo 5. I mean, maybe that's weird, but God, it was so fun. I mean,
Yeah, I think those are good. I'm going to go ahead next and call on Mike, because I'm going to count on you as raising your hand when you're petting your cat.
For me, the masterpiece or what have you would be the Silent Cartographer, but new gen, current gen, whatever
but
you
not
want to
silent.
Yeah. I mean, the strongest Halo maps, the strongest Halo games had a lot of options. I want to go back to the Halo where you can play the same firefight 7 times in a row and no 2 fights are the same. And yeah, it's kind of like that with Halo 4 and 5, but I think less or so. But yeah, I want there to be real choice. I think a lot of the choice in 5 was more, I guess, manufactured. You have your option to go high, bust through the wall, or go left. It's where Silent Cartographer for me was just very systematic, very
do what you want.
Choose your adventure. Same thing with Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was playing Last of Us, it reminded me a lot of Halo 5, and that it's there seemed to be some choices, but there was very clearly a design for how they wanted you to finish.
Yeah.
To go
especially with the way that
fights.
the AI.
Somebody's going to clip that and play that on Twitter later.
You know what? Good.
XboxEra says Last of Us is the same as Halo.
It's funny. I'm sure they'll take that and then find my quote of how much I loved the first half of Last of Us 2.
Which we opened the podcast with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I want. Give me a good narration that I don't need to watch any movie or videos or read any books to completely follow and be impacted on. Have it so that if I read the books, I get more from it. But
and
I'm down because that could drive you to read the books. I don't want to be kind of forced into it. And you give me that solid sandbox gameplay, and that to me is a masterpiece, especially one that's infinitely replayable with friends. All day long.
Oh my god.
So it's your turn because I can see you.
I mean, it's pretty simple. When it comes to the campaign, I need the story to be compelling. I need it to be emotional, I suppose you could say, but I need to care for it. You know what I mean? And I don't want to end mad. That's another thing. I ended Halo 5 and I'm like, really? This is where we went? Okay, all right. I don't want that to happen. In fact, even to this day, when I play Halo 3 and I finish the game and that last scene shows up and the credits start rolling, man, I get really emotional. You know what I mean?
Skip Cortana. Yeah.
Well,
the worst level ever.
Man, when I was actually, no, that's a big tangent. Never mind. But either way, when I was a kid and I first finished Halo 3, I think I actually cried. The music was perfect, the credits lined up. It made it seem like Halo's over. I don't want that from Infinite, but I do want it emotional. And the other thing I want from the campaign is just memorable. I think of Halo CE, I can remember literally every single level. I can remember, parts of that's because I played the game a lot as a kid, but it's also because the levels were just so memorable. You know what I mean? I know Infinite's not going to have that strict level structure. And I know actually initially when the rumors first happened about Halo Infinite being open world, I was initially saying, I'd rather just have it level structure. You know, we can still do that. Doom still does that. But I'll keep an open mind and I'll go in and I just hope for it to be memorable. For multiplayer, I just want a good big team battle, man. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all I want.
Yeah. And no, go ahead, Proven. Go ahead. I was going to touch on something that.
Well, for me, I've always been a multiplayer guy, and I just want a multiplayer that launches and it feels like complete. Like for Halo 4, I just remember that it launched missing like King of the Hill, I believe. It was like missing in most of the core modes outside of like Slayer and Capture the Flag. For Halo 5, they didn't have Forge for a month or two, I think. I just want okay. They've been working on this game for 5 or 6 years, depending on whenever they started. And I know COVID's happening, and like I understand. I'm not trying to say like that hasn't affected, but they delayed the game here, so they need to launch the multiplayer complete and with a lot of maps. Like it can't just be like, oh, we're gonna add the other stuff later. Like it has to launch with everything that they wanted to launch with.
Yeah, 100%.
That was my concern with the way things were looking with the last launch, with the original launch, that it wasn't going to be feature complete. You know, when you hear things
especially when they said,
ray tracing was going to come after launch. I forget who, but someone asked if a certain mode was going to be there at launch, and they couldn't answer yes or no. So, you know, the way that it was coming on. But real quick, something that Arcel touched on earlier was that, you know, you care about it and stuff like that. Like Halo 5 did an absolute crap job at introducing the characters. Like there was no character development. There was no proper introduction. Like it was just a squad of Spartans that you were supposed to be interested in or care about. And I mean, I think Infinite automatically makes that easier because it's just the chief. And so far, what we've seen of the pilot, I think he's really personable and he's going to bring that human touch or what have you. But yeah, I thought you hit it right on the nail there.
Yeah, I think you guys bring up a lot of, you know, diverse points, but they are very core to what most people think of as Halo, which is, again, the story, the sandbox, and the multiplayer. That's really, which is interesting because, you know, the fact that all the focus has been on the graphics, and I get the graphics matter, but at the same time, you know, a lot of people are associating the graphics with the overall quality. And which is interesting because if you go back and you look at Halo 4, and I know some of you guys really like the Halo 4 campaign. Personally, it was way down the list for me because when I play the Halo 4 campaign and I replay it, it has really impressive graphics for its time. They hold up today. But it's the one I want to replay the least because there was sacrifices.
The level design suffers for it.
Yeah. They make sacrifices to get that high quality of shine into the visuals. So in a way, I don't. And this is the thing. Like, you know, the last couple of podcasts I went on, I was kind of trying to explain. It's like, it needs to look good for what it's going to look. I think it's still going to look good. It's not going to be the game that sells the graphical power of the Series X, and if it does, then to me that tells me that they again are making compromises elsewhere. I see your cat agrees with me.
We need a title change for this episode.
Your cat does agree, but yeah, they sacrifice a lot to get the graphics, and I think that's the gist of that. And I don't want them to do that. I want the graphics to be just good enough, but I want them to even after they ditch the Xbox One, throw all that power into like just larger scale battles they've ever had in Halo. Yes. You know, like maybe even start to. As we know, they're working on like physics and AI and things behind the scenes. Start to apply some of that technology, upgrade those aspects. Because when I think about a great Halo, like an epic Halo for me, it's the sandbox. It's that game that I want to keep going back and playing again and trying different things. And you can see people post videos online of weird ways they got through certain situations that maybe the that maybe the developers didn't think of it. Jay Next Gen says, OBM, please tell me you have a cat. Yes, mine is out the door though. So, it would definitely be up here if it wasn't close.
Give me a skull that gives us back invincible warthog so I can do warthog jumps.
Oh man.
I wonder that heavily armored thing they released this week.
Razorback?
I'm curious if that's going to be your thing to get across the map, that you don't put a gun in it so you can't like abuse it in battle, but maybe you can use it as a mobile shield like you could in Halo CE.
Damage. That would be
That'd be interesting. I'm curious. I know nothing about it, but that'd be kind of neat. So yeah, like we talked about it, and I think really the sandbox, the stories core, and then obviously multiplayer.
Oh, yeah.
5, I put 2,000 hours into it, but that big team battle, those didn't even exist at launch, and even the maps that came out afterwards weren't great. So despite the the really good balancing. So
do you think the campaign in 5 is better than 4?
That's what I was going to ask.
Are you one of those?
Yeah,
weirdos?
In what way? No, I mean, what way is your top in story?
In whatever way bumps Halo 4 to the lower tier to you.
I don't like. You know what? Neither one of those stack up for me. Like
they're both in the
DQ. At least they're both better than ODST and the acting of Adam Baldwin. We can all agree on that.
Here's what I'll say about 5. At least 5 has some interesting gameplay, like a little bit of control. And some of the levels it plays out well. I don't think
haters.
Yeah,
I put 5 above 4 as well, personally. I just had more
campaign wise?
What? You what, mate?
Recently I played
I don't even know you people anymore.
We're gonna start getting.
I know, Mike. I'm like, what?
I think actually, as a group, we had the most fun with Halo 5. I know that sounds weird, but it was, I think, because it was actually difficult. While Halo's 3 was like a joke.
Speak for yourself.
What?
I still like all the Bungie. I can replay the Bungie Halos every year. Yes. I can't replay the Halo 3.
And I definitely agree with that. Like I align with that. Halo 4 I didn't like on the 360. Halo 4 was the 360's Halo 2. They sacrificed scope for better graphics.
Yeah.
Because the scope of Halo 2 didn't match Halo 1. And they went for like the normal maps and all that stuff. They went for the prettier graphics, and it looked great for the most part. Like I think Halo 4 did a much better job at the graphics than Halo 2. Halo 2 had a lot of issues on the OG Xbox. But anyways, it's I still like Halo 4 is a game that I was able to more appreciate as time went on, especially with the remaster. And I
sorry, that's another guess.
So unprofessional, people.
And I almost want to say that the last time I played Halo 4, I didn't notice a weapon disappearing. So I don't know if that's something that 343 fixed or if I was just lucky. But the weapon disappearing was one of my biggest issues with Halo 4 because to me that broke the sandbox. And all
right, so
you're weird. But no.
So I think everybody got their. We better pivot to some community questions because we've run long on our first topic. Topic and a half.
This is going to be a short one, guys.
We actually did say that.
We always say that. What are you talking about?
Like, what's our second topic? We don't have a second topic. Yeah, we didn't need one.
Yeah. So we had a couple. First of all, somebody in the chat asked earlier, and I had to go back and see who said it. They asked, "Do we think this is going to be the biggest multiplayer?" And I think that's. Well, does anybody not think it's going to be the biggest?
I mean, define biggest. Actually, you don't need to. Yes.
Player count.
You don't need to define it. Yes.
Yeah.
Just by the basis of what it's going to be on and the fact that it's free to play, it's a no-brainer. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be up there amongst the top played games long term beyond just this year. So
yeah, I don't think people realize how big free to play and PC and console launch simultaneous, how much that's going to affect the population.
right?
I think the one thing people are really overlooking, and this is probably a topic for another show once we get a little bit more information, is the Forge and the ability to expand it to something in a bigger sandbox.
Yep.
It's the one thing that Fortnite does have a creator mode, but the most people just play the one. Play the one main mode. That's the one thing Warzone doesn't have. And so even if you might have gamers might make their own versions of battle royales,
especially on PC.
Yeah, I mean, and that's we said it last time when we talked about the PC stuff. Having that community is going to help Halo more than I think people want to admit. If the console players want to admit, so I think it's going to be pretty big. I mean, they're going to provide a lot of creativity. So yeah, I don't think anybody doesn't think it's going to be that way. So somebody else just asked a question in our chat. What did they say? Thoughts on what Alliance Officer says, thoughts on whether Halo will look graphically impressive to the majority of people watching E3 this year. I think we kind of talked about it. I don't think it's going to, it's not going to do what people want. Thoughts on whether Halo will be graphically impressive.
It'll look great until someone freeze frames another melee.
Yes.
And then makes it
I think it'll look great.
So,
yeah, I think it'll be fine. Yeah. I mean, kind of like our point earlier, it's like, again, having just finished Last of Us, the whole reason it can look that good is because they sacrifice scope. And that's
usually the way it goes. I mean, you look at it as a canvas, and you have a limited amount of paint. Yep. You can make a much more detailed painting with a smaller canvas than with like an entire wall. And
that's a great analogy.
But I think with everything we've seen,
every once in a while, once a month.
Shoot far.
Well, that's all I have. Have a good night, everyone.
Well, the way they're lighting it, you don't get like when they're doing
those cinematic moments,
and it's not. It allows them to make things a lot faster, but it's also just not going to be as pretty. Like Destiny 2 can look unbelievable when they have their lighting that takes them 4 or 5 days to render a change in.
Yep.
So when you're doing everything on the fly, overall, it's going to lead to them being able to add in a lot more, but it's not as immediately, oh, crap, look at that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those slow burns when people get their hands on it and say, holy shit, the fact that this looks completely different in this scenario, and then it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and then
they can
it's
show
totally
off
different.
some big scope too, because that's one thing we talked about with the engine. They show off some huge battle without being too spoilery. That I think that would really help.
And I know a lot of people like to say that Halo hasn't traditionally been a showpiece title. I've never agreed with that. I know that sometimes I go against the grain, but like you look at Halo 1 is still one of the best looking shooters that generation. And granted, yes, I know it's because like the Xbox is 3 times more powerful than the competition. Like there's a huge gap, but like Halo 2 pushed the boundaries in a lot of ways. Halo 3, you can see it now. You take away the jaggies of Halo 3, and
until you throw a human.
Yes, and that's where I pause, because the polygon counts on the humans. Yes, they suffer, but you consider how many polys are probably being thrown in a scene because of the scope. And
it's all relative though, right? Because you think about it, at the time, Gears of War came out right before it.
And Gears of War is a shoebox compared to Halo 3. Right. And not to take anything away from Gears of War, it's a totally different genre game.
Agree.
But
people
I
just compare genres without thinking about it. It's
exactly
like, this like this, so this
exactly.
should also look like this is 15 times bigger.
How does this apply to this when they're not even? Yeah, I completely agree. But I think Halo has traditionally been a graphical showpiece, but not in the cinematic
traditional
way.
Sense?
Like not in the Call of Duty way, not in the. And I hate mentioning games from competition, but not in the Uncharted way. But not in the Gears of War way. It takes those resources to a different extent, and what it does with it. I mean, Halo 3 had amazing textures that still hold up today, and lighting,
and it was recording the whole time, so that you could go back in, and fly around the full 3D model. I mean, the amount of computation that it was doing at any given second there was no other game like it at the time.
Yeah,
and so I mean, I think I agree. Like, if you actually think about what makes a game, what composes the graphics, like I totally agree, especially on the texture front. Like, you go back and compare most games from 2007 and their textures versus Halo 3. Halo 3 is going to win by a large margin. And I'm talking load up the original 360, not even MCC.
Wait,
just load up the original.
And just be far from the TV, right? I mean,
No, you can zoom in like hard.
Well, the thing that killed Halo 3 on the 360 was the filtering. The textures were amazing looking, but then 3 feet out, they turned into
they're gone.
Yeah. But like, but Halo Reach was amazing. Halo 4 especially.
Except for the motion blur.
Well, yeah, the motion blur
and the
had
bloom.
a lot of banding and a lot of issues.
Graphics and effects, Mike, did you see? They announced they're going back to fix Halo CE so that it's not running off the Vista code base. And
I hope they nail it. I hope they nail it. Like, I'm playing a wait and see, because they had blog posts about fixing it and these goals and stuff. I hope they nail it. I really do. If they do,
that'd be really cool.
But even then, I don't know. I'm not so much of a purist that I'm bothered by the. I prefer them restore it completely, but if even if they just come close, I don't need them to come 100% for me to be satisfied. I guess is my point.
Speaking of, I agree with you in the sense that when I played Halo 3, I didn't really follow all this stuff. I was like, 13, 14? I don't know. Okay, I was 13. Anyways, when I played Halo 3...
God, I hate
when I played Halo 3... and
here we go, grab my walker.
there were certain moments in the game where, even graphically, I was like, this is amazing. The final run in Halo 3... I'm like, this is amazing. My hands were shaking. Like, things are blowing up. I fell a million times. Halo Reach. I know everyone hates the what was it called? Nighthawk or Night Raven? The airplane, the jet.
The Knight of Solace?
Knight of Solace is the level's name, but I'm pretty sure that the jet's name was Knight something, I think. Well, either way, I know everyone hated the level, but graphic.
The Long Sabers or something?
Long Saber, my bad. Yes, it was a Long Saber. Nothing to do with Night. My bad.
Level is amazing.
Yeah, well, actually, a lot of people
hated it because they were bad and they died a lot.
Yeah. It got very bad reception, but graphically, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, those skyboxes.
I think they got bad reception because they hyped up the space combat, but it was kind of underwhelming. Like, it was just such a small part.
You get through it real quick if you're not bad.
Yeah,
it was part of the E3 demo too, I think.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
If they didn't hype it up, then I think it would have been received probably well or better.
Yeah. Hey, I think Proven was trying to pipe in there a couple of times. Sorry, Proven. Would you want to say?
Well, I'm just gonna go back to the graphics just for a second. I remember around the July demo. I forgot exactly who it was, but I think it might have been the 343 community manager. And someone was asking, like, well, why does the game look like this? And then they responded saying, oh, well, the reason the game looks like this is because we're going back to an art style that the fans have wanted. So I think that a lot of the angst around Halo, the way Halo Infinite looks, is because Halo 4 had a specific art style that made things pop a little bit more. Like, there was a lot of light, like the lighting was really nice in that game. And so I just think people are going to be comparing the new art style to the 343 art style. And I just think, like, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation for them. Like, there's going to be some people that like the art style and how the game looks, but there's always going to be that maybe a vocal minority that just doesn't like it for whatever reason.
There's one thing with Halo 4 is you can take almost anything, and if you add enough lens flares to it, people will go, wow, that looks really good.
Well, and that's what, Mr. Nick, Special Nick, that's what gets him every time.
Look,
it's like, oh, that's shiny. How do you say that in Australian?
Oh, it's really shiny. I like that.
Yeah, it's shinier than a bee's dick.
I think a good example, though, look at...
a bees. Okay, that's a little better.
I think a good point of reference, though, what I would be shooting for is look at, like, Halo 2 Remaster. Halo 2 Remaster is absolutely gorgeous. It does such an awesome job.
Agree.
merging classic type art style with modern effects and graphics. Like Halo 2 Remaster is what bumped up Halo 2 for me to such a high degree, because while Halo 2 original pushed a lot of like graphical boundaries, the art direction suffered in a lot of ways.
Because those normal maps,
Yeah, you had a lot of browns, you had a lot of like blurrier textures. Like I was really disappointed when I couldn't put my face up against a rock and it turned blurry instead of sharp like it did in the OG Halo. So like, you know, it's I think you can still have that classic art style but look amazing if done right.
Yeah. I mean, like, take a look at sorry, this is really quick. Breath of the Wild, graphically in terms of technically is terrible in terms of resolution and all that stuff, but people loved how it looked.
I love
the art style. If you run it in a Dolphin emulator, then it's gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah.
True. And sorry, Nadia.
The resolution was probably the biggest issue.
I was just going to say, can I point out the irony of Nick, who's always like, oh, God, I don't know why so many people focus on the graphics all the time. And now he's talking about how he likes the shinies. Just, hey, Nick, just jump on next time. So
we're not on Discord anymore, so you can't just pop in and off.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man. But let's not forget, too, when we talk about the visual, the technical, what it takes technically to run this game and make it look good. You know, when you got split screen, wide environments, supposedly the AI is going to be taking a step up. So there's a lot of different things going on with
hopefully
that.
The physics.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out, though, because it seems to be like, again, a hot trend on Twitter. I should have never got on Twitter, by the way. I only started this 6 months ago, and it's like a new world for me.
Oh, yeah.
I started getting on for the site. It's like, man, people do the dumbest shit. But anyways, like...
the block button is your friend.
So last week, one of my buddies was showing me some character models he was making for his own game, and he was like showing me 7 levels of detail. Like when you get up really close, you can actually see like the pores in the guy's skin, and then when it's like way back, the textures get a lot blurrier, right? Like that whole level. So when you take a screenshot of a brute that's way far out in the distance and you blow it up, that doesn't count. He's trying to put that up against the cutscene from Last of Us and go.
Yeah, The Last of Us 2 in the cutscenes is absolutely gorgeous, but in gameplay, if you zoom in on a character that's far away, they look like they could be in a PlayStation 2. It's just the way things work. It's normal.
The LOD, it's a smart use of resources, right? So, anyways, just wanted to get that out of the way. So let's move on to unless I cut somebody off.
I actually totally forgot what the original question even was. So
it was graphics.
It was about the graphics. Infinite.
Yeah. So Hypernova wanted to ask about Halo Wars 1 and 2, the vehicles. Is there any that we'd like to see in Halo Infinite, and why?
Yes, Cyclops. I want to see the Cyclops.
What's cool about Cyclops?
So that's it's the bulky mech unit in Halo Wars 1 and 2. I think it's
the
2.
UNSC.
Yeah, it's in 2. Yeah. So that's the one that it's the support. So like I just would love to be able to actually have a third or fourth person playing with us who can repair our tanks, who can,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because that's their whole point is to they're the support class for the UNSC. They're basically like the engineers, if you're playing Covenant. So being able to have something that could, in those legendary runs actually repair the attack vehicles, so that you're not having to scrounge for one as your buddy just ran down the wrong side of the highway
and had Buck as the person.
Or so you don't have that person who just is driving and then just decides to leave, and then you're just left there with your gun in your hand, just like sorry.
Yeah, no, that actually worked pretty well.
It's a good point.
There's a whole list. Like there's the Jackrabbit, which is like this cool little fast thing that would be really fun to drive.
The scout vehicle.
The Wolverine would be really cool to be able to have as an anti-air unit if there's because Halo Wars 2 is obviously a very rock, paper, scissors setup for everything. So you've got your different aerial units that you normally get. You get your different anti-air, and everything, has a role that it's built for. So getting more of that variety in at least the campaign, because I know it could be unbelievably hard to balance in multiplayer, but bring in a lot of those into the campaign because they would just be something really different and fun.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Normally we get 4 tanks just show up when it's tank time, right? It'd be pretty cool if you get a variety of different vehicles for people to
Like
choose
they've
and
got
go
one
on.
called the Kodiak, which is like slow moving, sets itself up massive cannon instead of being the classic Scorpion. Like they have so many variants they can pull from, and I'm really hoping they do. And it's the same on the Banished side with the Awaken the Nightmare DLC is basically adding in even more.
A Goshawk.
Goshawk?
Am I remembering
Halo Wars
correctly,
1.
or
the
was there a Banished version of the Scarab? Right?
Yeah.
And 2. I would love to bring back the Scarab, for crying out loud. I mean, it's those giant kind of set pieces that I think Reach was missing. Like, that was the only thing that didn't make Reach kind of go above Halo 3 for me, because when you think about
you never
that,
had those 2 Scarabs.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
The end of the Covenant.
That was amazing.
That was had 2 Scarabs dropping down, but on top of that, you had multiple UNSC and Covenant. You had Ghosts, you had Warthogs.
It was a full-blown battlefield.
Exactly.
For its time, you never saw anything like
no,
that.
Even now, it's so much fun to play.
Even
honestly.
now. And so, having just those large scale, bigger than life type of oppositions,
Well, and this goes back to what we just were talking about, like the sandbox thing, and keeping some of those resources open for that, because that's what we really haven't seen that type of thing, like those WoW battles in, I don't know, really since Halo 3.
I mean, Halo 5 tried with, what was it, the Hydra or Hive or something?
Yeah.
It didn't
that was a retread of Halo 2's Scarab. It was all scripted.
Yeah. Like it tried, it didn't work.
No.
Like when you're going down, when these linear, super scripted things. We're talking about sandbox, because if you think about even Halo CE, when you drop off the first time you ever dropped off the cellular cartographer off the when you drop into the battlefield, you never saw anything like that at that time. And the same with later levels, when you go out and there's just a battle in front of you, and there's tanks blowing up Jeeps, and at that time that was a scale that you never saw on a console, or really even PC, because I came from PC at the time. And then you move on to the Scarab in Halo 2, and then eventually the bigger sandbox in Halo 3, and that's just something that's been missing, I think, really since then. I think when I'm thinking about a great Halo, that would be having a few of those moments in this game that are unscripted, even dynamic battlefield.
Jumping onto that Scarab was at Halo 2, one of the most memorable moments ever.
At the time, it was awesome.
Yeah. The music starts blasting. Oh man.
I forgot if it was a month ago or 2 months ago, where I think it was I forgot which update it was, where they talked about, depending on if you're on foot or if you're in a vehicle, like
the
enemies
change.
So if you're in a tank, then maybe the Covenant will show up with the Wraith. If you're on foot, maybe they'll show up in a Ghost. So I think that's going to be like what Mike always says about how Halo 3 and Halo 2 are super replayable, because each fight feels different. I think if they can nail kind of like the sandbox, where depending on what you're doing, the AI reacts differently. I think if they can nail that, then the game will be super replayable.
Do you think we're going to need to put a more a counter on how many times sandbox is said in each episode moving forward?
Yes, like the curse jar.
Sandbox.
Sorry.
We had an entire episode where all we did was
sandbox.
Do a shot every time we say sandbox.
Sandbox bingo. If you fill the entire card.
That point is you look at Halo 5 and it has a very scripted giant mech that you can only take out in one way, versus what was very clearly a completed mission in Swords of Sang Helios, where it's a huge thing where they just put stuff there, but it's not scripted to always work the exact same way. So I've gone through that level 20 different ways in the past with different vehicles or going on foot in different paths, and you can completely miss areas, and it's huge, and it's the promise of what that game could have been if it had been planned better.
If it had been consistent, because that's, for me, that's the biggest thing. Is I agree with you, Jesse. There are moments in that game where it's clear. You look at them, you look at the different elevation paths, you look at the different crash paths that you can go through, and it's clear that they understood that they had a different movement mechanism that they could have built an entire campaign around. And it's it's almost schizophrenic in the sense that it seems like it's made by two different teams at sometimes.
Yeah.
That level feels like it's something that would have been built by the old Halo teams, with the new mechanics. And it's weird because that level really stands out as a good level. And if they would have had 10 levels like that in Halo 5,
it would have been fantastic.
We would be talking about a different game. I'll move on to the next question. We got one from Mr. Tazif Zaman. Sorry if I didn't say that right. XboxEra, do you think it is likely that at this E3 there will be only a quick Halo Infinite single-player trailer and a dedicated multiplayer showcase with multiplayer beta shadow drop?
Nope.
So, does anybody have any opinions?
Nope.
Not a chance.
I think that they'll show us.
Nick? Any rumors on that? Do us a favor.
I'll add real quick. I think they're going to show a story trailer, then maybe some gameplay. They'll probably show a quick multiplayer trailer, and I'm assuming they'll go in depth sometime off stream. Because I don't think, there's so much to show. I don't think they'll have enough time on the stream to show everything they want to. So, but I think a big campaign demo is the main focus for E3.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would bet on that.
I think what they should do, or what I'm expecting or hoping, is good campaign blowout, kind of to shut down a lot of the criticism from last year, to just reinvigorate that confidence, and then end it with a multiplayer trailer. That would be like a good best side, both worlds. And if they can include a flight announcement in that trailer, boom, icing on the cake.
Yep.
Really nice period on a good statement or a good presentation of that game.
Yeah, basically same thoughts here. Though, by the way, I feel like next episode, because that's the last episode before E3, I think, we should do like a predictions episode. That'd be cool. I'll talk about that later. But anyways.
And we're all wrong.
What I think will happen is it'll be a black screen. It'll say something like 343 or something, I don't know. We'll go straight into a demo. And then the demo will end. We'll get like a montage trailer. Someone will come back on stage, be like, multiplayer. We'll get a multiplayer trailer, and we'll get the flight date.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, now we don't need your prediction. We already know.
I think we're going to see several. I wouldn't be surprised if we see several shadow drops.
Yeah.
And the flighting one, I think, is pretty much a guarantee at this point.
They almost need it.
Yeah, I feel like
it.
Campaign's a given. I think that after last year, they need to do it needs to be like one of those talk shows, like the before and after, like Brute, Brute before, back when he was like home
Craig.
Brute. Or,
Craig did.
When he used to get made fun of at school, they're going to bring on like his old classmates, sit him down next to him, bring him out, with his
Oh my God, he's so gorgeous.
That'd be hilarious.
You could have had this. But yeah, I definitely think, I don't know what they're going to do with the multiplayer though. If they're going to maybe slow roll that out throughout the rest of the year, I don't. But I think
just no fake gamer talk, please.
They just need to show it because, they were planning to show it after they delayed the game. So it's like, and I just think they kind of just have to let it all out. Like they can't just wait till August or whatever to show the game. They just it was already delayed a year. I don't think showing everything at once is gonna hurt the game or anything. So I just think they need to do that.
This should be the E3 of Halo.
No,
if you're not a Halo fan, you should not be coming into this E3 expecting to like it.
They can.
We don't need to gatekeep here.
They can still have additional trailers and deep dives and stuff after E3. I mean, there's the Forge, there's more cutscenes, there's more environments, or multiplayer could be a major focus. After they kind of hopefully shut up the doubters on the campaign, they can then pivot to multiplayer. And
well, I mean, especially if they are doing, flighting and all that, then it's going to be, it's out there. Everyone can see it, they can play it. And if, you look at June as the beginning of the hype cycle, and then they go June, July, August, and then release in September, hopefully. And then you've got, you get that ramp up that Rod Ferguson didn't want to do for Gears for some reason.
Yeah.
And
The ramp up to Gears 5 was horrible.
We got that Billie Eilish trailer though.
Let's not talk about that.
No.
All right, we're gonna want to fire through
real
some of these
quick.
questions, you guys.
Yeah.
Real quick,
Yeah.
Falcon, you're on. I just want to say that.
I can just do 1v1 me in Halo Infinite for those just listening.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say too, really quick, Abe. They, hopefully they do something similar pre-COVID, where they have showcases after.
Yes.
Obviously, Inside Xbox
Yes.
is basically dead, but maybe something where they have some developer interviews. They sit down, show some more footage, all that kind of jazz.
That was a great
Outside
E3.
Xbox.
All right,
Which is audio show.
Jamie ODST on the Discord wanted to ask Mike, does he think Halo will ever reach the levels of popularity that Shenmue has?
There deletes that 10%.
In my heart, no. But I hope it does.
Oh man!
If you remove almost all the popularity, then yes.
Aw.
Admittingly, if you guys see some of the reactions to Shenmue 3's reveal,
Yes.
And nobody bought it.
no one
No,
bought it.
every-
No one bought it.
No,
No
the
one bought it.
problem
Those reactions
was
were insane. Will
the
Halo
problem
ever get
was
those
ev-
reactions?
the problem was
I don't
that
know.
everyone that would have bought it, they put into the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
It didn't reach beyond the core base is the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, yeah,
Plus,
I bought
they
like
then had to play Shenmue 3, which no one wants to do after looking at Shenmue 3.
Right. Or the fact that it never evolved past the game that was. I mean, I love Shenmue 1 and 2, but come on.
These are dangerous waters.
yeah,
watching.
I'm feeling
just
very
Hey, I'm the biggest Sega fanboy. Well, one of the
I'm
biggest
feeling
Sega
very,
fanboys
very
here. So.
threatened right now and insulted and
All right, we
Yeah.
better move. We better keep
Agreed.
it moving.
Agreed with
I wanna
Nick
know what
here.
I bet you out of most people like tuning in, very few came to listen about Shenmue. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're
sure.
gonna
If you ever
talk.
want to know how to drive
It's the
a
same
tractor,
10 that actually
Play
bought
Shenmue.
it.
All right, so Andrew Schmidt asks, how do you think the reception up to the reveal will be? I think we kind of been talking about it, but
we
you
covered
know,
that. I feel.
yeah, I mean, in general, I think everybody here has felt pretty good if you're a Halo fan. If you're
One thing to always remember is that no matter what it is, it's going to be full of clickbait. And that will drive
The
way
reaction.
too much. Yeah, so
Mhm.
Wait, are we
we'll
talking
get
about the build up to E3 or the build up to launch?
The reveal itself, he's asking. I think.
Oh, the reveal
Yeah,
itself.
reveal at E3. Yeah.
You know, honestly, I would love for this to be a repeat of 2003 E3. If it
2003,
turns out to be,
what?
huh?
Why
Sorry,
not 99
I have
Mac
no idea
World?
what happened 2003 E3.
do you mean like a level that we'll never get to play in the game?
Well, something that positively is universally talked about. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
They could just fake it and then
requires 10 3090s to run.
it looks
Sounds
proven,
good.
it looks like
Which you can't
Proven's
buy.
out.
Am I missing questions? Proven,
There's
I think,
one in.
There's a couple
Discord, I
more on the forum. I don't know if you got to those. Oh,
Ugh, that
Yeah,
forum.
a couple.
Ugh.
go ahead and read them, and then we'll try to.
From Torn Raptor, who's a Patreon supporter, thank you for the support. He said, "How does Chief go to the toilet? Must suck if he's eaten something spicy and needs to duck behind a bush."
The suit just recycles it. That's
Yeah, I
gotta be-
figured that's
Yeah.
just built in the suit.
That's nasty.
That technology is.
You use that suit by having a hose up the butt and on genitalia,
Oh my
and everything just goes. Nope.
You know, I heard something
Alright.
about it possibly relieving him too.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
This is awful. All right.
Okay,
what's the
next question.
guys?
This is from Mortz on the forum again, also a Patreon supporter. Thank you.
Never heard of
He
it.
says, he said, "This is my favorite Halo podcast on XboxEra." Thank you for that.
That's a very high bar.
He says, "Do you think we will get official merch with Craig? I
I
can
hope
see
so.
that they really
I
transformed
hope
the
so.
brutes."
there
know
better
what,
be at
guys?
least have a Craig Easter egg.
You know what? Is there any legal issues with us having a Craig shirt? That needs to happen.
We should ask Bonnie Ross.
We could
Yes.
probably
We should
make
just
one
do
and
it.
Give it away, but not sell it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't.
What if I get like
Okay.
a Funko Pop?
Oh, you know what you can do is you make the outline look enough like him, and it's just like an outline, but not his actual texture. And
Yes.
you can do that.
And then we get sued.
All right.
We have our podcast T-shirt, which is the outline of the chief.
We'll get our legal team on it.
Yeah, we'll check into that and see what we can do to make that happen.
Well, Our legal
Eddie-
team is tweeting Hogue Law.
Yeah, there was something in the chat earlier asked by Jay, which is also, I'm pretty sure, Jamie ODSD. And it's a quick question. Can we get predictions on MC numbers from each member, just for fun?
40.
I
I think
read
it'll
the
be like
question.
a mid-80s. Like
Sorry.
mid-80s.
Mid-80s. If I had to give a number, I'd
The
say
correct
86.
answer is 87.
Yeah, I was
Ooh,
thinking 87.
87.
Yeah, that's probably, what's funny about Halo, it feels like it's got a ceiling and a floor that are really
Yeah.
close to each other.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 82 to 87. It feels like,
91.
I agree with that.
but
1 million.
The last FPS to get a 90, I think, is what, Overwatch? Is a 91.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, it's
I think that
Yeah.
when I looked it
I think
up.
that's the
You know what,
last
They
FPS
just
to get.
don't give it
their
to them
due
anymore.
time. That's what I say. I say 90, 91. Just
all right.
Ooh.
if it's as good as everything sounds like, I think that's what it deserves. But I'm biased, so.
Yeah, we are.
Proven says 99 because that's the year he was born.
Well, I would say 2001, but I don't.
God.
Wait, what?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, shit.
I was born in 2002.
What the hell? All right.
No, I'm
man.
just
All right.
We'll never
It's
know
like,
how
I
old
think
I
he's
am.
97.
He's kidding. It's 2012.
Proven was, back when I was playing Halo CE for the first time in a demo, Proven wasn't even thought of yet. All right. Do we have any other questions, you guys?
I think that's it.
All right. I think then we ran long again. Despite coming
Make a
All
good
right.
time.
Good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under 2 hours, fairly decent, and we kept a
think
pretty good viewer base the entire time. I'm
Didn't have to
surprised.
fake a good conversation like we never would ever do. Ever.
Now we do want to say thank you to everybody that stuck along with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you all are
as
awesome.
and
Except
appreciate all the
Nick.
comments and yeah.
Oh, and yeah, we were talking more community nights for playing Halo.
Yes.
Master Chief
Yes,
Collection and Halo
yes,
5
that is a
and
good
stuff.
thing to bring up.
Really quick, can I, Nick, just put something in chat I think is very important. Proven wasn't even born when I bought my OG Xbox. Christ.
Who needs Nick? We've got Nick at home.
Nick
the
with
sub.
far less criminality in him. Oh, and like the schedule moving forward, we'll make sure to tweet out and stuff and let people
Yeah.
know.
E3's almost here, man. We've survived past what we didn't think would happen, which is like months past Halo Infinite, what we thought it was going to release when we started the podcast, and now it's almost here.
Yeah.
So
and
close.
we might change some things up going forward. We definitely want to involve the community a little bit more. If you guys, by the way, if you have clips that you guys take, some really cool clips, either playing multiplayer, Forge, Sync campaign, send them over to our crew. We are going to look to try to highlight the community and potentially, give out rewards based on the best clips and things going
I guess we'll
forward.
put an email in the description or something. We'll look into how to do that.
Yeah.
You just tweet them at us, that type of stuff.
Oh, yeah, that works too.
Yeah, just tweet them to us. And in addition to that, expect to see a little bit of different content cadence. We may put out some little quick hitter, topics, just single, shorter topics from under within this podcast. So just look for us to
Maybe
change.
actually get back to our Halo playthroughs.
Yes.
See, after so
We
many
got to
months.
restart at this point.
No,
Yeah.
no. We're like a third in the way through
back to
Halo 5.
community
We're
nights, we
good.
definitely we definitely want to get those going on a more regular basis. I think so far we've only had one, and I think it was only 2 of us showed up for it because we had actually had a podcast recording at the time of the community event. I know we should definitely, we should definitely get that on a more scheduled basis. I mean, I want to play more Halo. Everyone here wants to play more Halo.
All right,
Go ahead, Abe.
I'm gonna kick it over to Sol because he has the best voice for sign off.
That is not true, but this time I did write down 4 things. I write down mention Patreon. So guys, we have a Patreon. If you're following us this long, then I'm sure you know about it. If you want to support us, if you want to ask questions, and then when we eventually get popular enough that we move over to Patreon only questions, you want to be there, right? The link's on the description. I also have written down mention forum. So in case you don't know, we have a forum as well, where if you're tired of all the constant Xbox negativity and constant doomer talk, then stay away from our forum. But if not,
if you're a star effer and you want to be able to talk to people like Des Gordon and Paris Lilly and even the rare Phil Spencer,
yeah,
then
he's posted on
visit
there.
our forum.
Oh, yeah, that was a joke.
Nick's on there too.
The
Yeah,
forum's
the
great.
forums are all right.
It's really solid. We have a growing base. It's a great
And we
community.
welcome everybody.
Yeah. Unless you get banned because we don't welcome
We
you.
welcome people who like video games.
Yeah. Okay. The third thing I said was mention subscribing. Yes. At this point, if you're watching 2 hours in and you're not subscribed, subscribe. I mean,
What's wrong with you?
So much. Then the majority of our videos are watched by people who are not subscribed.
Yeah.
So please subscribe.
I mean, our channel, we release, I think, a video like every other day or so, maybe even more, but sometimes multiple times a day. Reviews for older games, predictions, all that stuff. I mean, if you're a fan of Xbox and if you have Game Pass especially, subscribe to our channel. You'll really like our content. And the last thing was mention community nights. We already mentioned that.
Yeah, so I was looking at your notes, so don't ask me how, but...
But seriously, though, please comment, tweet. If you guys have any kind of suggestions, any kind of criticisms, good or bad, even if all you want to say is, I hate your face, turn your camera off. Just go ahead. And
Which we
comment
got
it.
earlier.
Go ahead and comment it. Ideally, we'll get proven with the camera soon. And we're still
Yes.
working on that. But yeah, any
Next
kind of
episode.
feedback, please let us know. Either comment on the YouTube, comment in the chat, forums. We have so many different ways you can reach out to us. But yeah, thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
All right, guys.
Sandbox.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, guys.